Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to walk you through the answers to this keyword transformation exercise. Now I'm sure you're familiar with the keyword for transformation question. You're given an example sentence, as we can see here. You're given a keyword and then you're given a sentence with a gap in it where you have to use the keyword. And in this case for FCE we've got to use between 2 and 5 words, including of course the keyword. Nice and simple. This question is a real test of your knowledge of grammar. If you have a good knowledge of vocabulary, if you have a good knowledge of grammar, and if you have experience transforming sentences from one type of sentence into a different type of sentence and practicing your language pattern skills, then this shouldn't be too difficult. If you haven't had practice in transforming one sentence type into a different sentence type, then one thing that you can do is practice this. You can ask yourself, how many different ways can I say this? Can I say this in the active voice? Can I say this in the passive voice? Can I say this as a question, and which question types? And so on, so on, so on. So you start off with an initial sentence and you see how many ways you can say the same thing using similar vocabulary, and if you do that then you'll quickly get into the habit of transformations and seeing which kind of transformations really connect with one another, and you'll see that this regular patterns appear in this keyword transformation exercise if you practice certain language transformations. And we can see this with question number 1, which is the question, have you been on holiday recently, Jane? Asked Tony. So this is a question, and that's important. And it's not just a question, but it's a question that generates a yes or no answer, and that's important because of the structure that we need in this in our answer. So it says Tony asked Jane on holiday recently. Now we need to ask a question, but we don't have any question marks here. We can't create a question in this gap. So how do we get that yes or no answer? How do we get to a language format which allows us to find out a yes or no answer? Well, the easiest way to do that is to use a conditional structure of some kind. So we could say, Tony asked Jane if, now we have to use a personal pronoun, if who, if she, and then we've got our language pattern from the original sentence. So have you been is a perfect form. If she had been on holiday recently. So, and if we check our answers, we can see that we've got a number of options all along the idea of conditional formats, whether it's if she had been, whether she had been, if she'd been, which is a contracted form, or whether she'd been, which is a contracted form using whether. So you can see here, by analysing our first question, it gives us lots of clues as to how we should answer the question. Okay, let's have a look at question number 2. The original sentence says, I was too tired to go to the party. Now, keyword straight away, too tired. So this is an emphatic structure. I'm stressing the fact that I am tired. And this is important because we need now to use an emphatic structure, something that stresses tiredness in our answer. We've got here, I was something, and that's our gap. I was something, I couldn't go to the party. And our keyword is that. So what emphatic structure can we use here? We can say, so. I was so tired that I couldn't go to the party. Let's see if we're correct. There we go. And we can see that we've got a couple of options here. So tired that, so exhausted, change of vocabulary, so exhausted that. So the structure that we need to practice or be aware of is, in this case, emphatic structures. So too tired means the same as so something that. And you'll see that this also appears on the open-close question, the use of English question 2, where your emphatic structures such as to and so also come up from time to time. Okay, let's have a look at question number 3. There's no point asking Linda to help as she's really busy. It's asking Linda to help as she's really busy. Now, a tip that might help you is what I sometimes do. It doesn't work for every single question, but sometimes it helps to focus on the correct, let's say, target language, if we can say this. And that is to identify the language. Let's just scroll this down a little bit. This is to identify the language that's both in the example sentence and in the question sentence. And so what we've got here is ask, or a form of ask is in both. And then we've got Linda to help as she's really busy. So that basically continues to the end. So the only thing that isn't in the question sentence is no point. Or rather, we could say that there's no point. So we've got to think of language in this gap, which means the same as there's no point. So what we're after here is an idiom of some kind. And that idiom is this. It's, rather I won't put that in there because it will give me a wrong answer. So it's a waste of time asking Linda to help. And let's see if we're correct. Indeed we are. So that's the idiom that means the same as there's no point, meaning that the end you won't have a result, or you won't have the result that you need. So if you're not familiar with the idiom a waste of time, become familiar with it now. Let's have a look at question number 4. I'm sure it was Anna I saw in town as I recognized her coat. So what we've got here, if we have a look at the same language, what we've got is that Anna I saw in town as I recognized her coat. So that bit is exactly the same as that bit there. And then we've got it, which is at the beginning here. So the language that we're looking to find using our keyword must is I'm sure. So which structure can we use using must, which means the same as I'm sure? And what we've got here is a perfect modal structure. Must have been. It must have been Anna I saw in town as I recognized her coat. And indeed, that's our correct answer. So once again, store that away in your memory for language structures which are synonymous. I'm sure and it must have been. And that modal perfect structure is a nice advanced structure that you can use in your writing in order to talk about certainty about various different things. It's something that you can work into most contexts, and it's a nice advanced language skill. Number 5, we demanded to see the hotel manager to make our complaint. So if we have a look for similar language like we did before, we can see the hotel manager to make our complaint is there, and we is also there. So the key language that we're looking to replace is demanded to see. But we've got a perfect participle form here, or it could be a continuous form here, or it could be a gerund. So this seeing here, straight away looking at this, gives us some clues, or at least gives us an idea of what kind of language that we need. So, and if we look for a different way to say demanded, then suddenly, if you've got a good knowledge of vocabulary, and I grant you that this is quite a difficult question, that all of the pieces fit into place. So in this case, we're looking for the verb insist. We insisted, of course, past simple. We insisted, and if we know our language patterns well, then we know that it will be we insisted on seeing the hotel manager to make our complaint. Let's see if I'm correct. There we go. So we've got a choice of preposition. We can either say insisted on seeing, or we can say insisted upon seeing. So demand and insist, two good synonyms. So once again, it's that knowledge of vocabulary. So you know that demand means the same in lots of contexts that insist does, and then not only that, it's a knowledge of language pattern as well. So after demand, we can see that we need the full infinitive. So demand to see, demand to do, demand to be. And after insist, we know that we need the preposition on and a gerund of some kind. So insisted on seeing, insisted on doing, insisted on sitting, whatever it might be. Question number 6, let's have a look at this one, the last one. The boss wouldn't object to you going early today. The boss would not. So here we've got that language covered. The boss would not, the boss would not. And then we've got this language here, you going early today, you going early today. And so what we've basically got to play with is a different form of object. And word formation skills, part 3 of the use of English paper, we know that object is our verb, and we know that objection is the noun. The question then becomes one of structure. How can we get objection into this gap? Well, the way that we would do that is to say the boss would not have any objection to you going early today. Let's see if we're correct. We are indeed. The boss would not have any objection to you going early today. So once again, it comes down to a knowledge of vocabulary and a knowledge of language pattern. Now, if I was going to get a little bit more technical, you would know that this is a nominalization. This is a change of the verb into a noun. This is what we call a nominalization. This is advanced language skills. And in order to have nominalizations, such as objection, you know that you must have a weak verb of some kind. So in this case, this is a question of learning collocations, or how language fits together. So objection as a noun needs the weak verb have. So once again, it's a question of vocabulary, a question of knowledge. How do you improve your knowledge? There's a number of ways that you improve your knowledge of vocabulary and language pattern. The first one is by reading widely and making notes. So not just reading, because after half an hour you forget what you read. But reading, take interest in what you're reading and writing down language patterns in a notebook somewhere so you can refer back to that at a later time. Or simply old-fashioned, old school, pretty terrible I know, but get to an online dictionary, have a look at the different forms of words, and if you can see there how those different forms of words are used in English. And that will be a great help to you, of course, for the open-close question, for all 4 parts, first 4 questions of the use of English exam, and for expanding your English knowledge as a whole. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please check out my YouTube channel for more walkthrough videos of various different types of FCE or CAE questions. And if you're studying from a course book, whether it's a First Gold, Ready for First, First Expert, Ready for Advanced, Advanced Gold, or Advanced Expert, then please check out my website cramtheexam.com, where I've got videos for every single exam question in those textbooks, so you can study at your own time as quick as you like and really get ready for your English exam.